والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية اللهم من حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشاء نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أن نطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد لا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون اليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولا هم ما يدعون سلام قول من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون وسواء عليهم ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانة فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب فلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون صلوات صل على محمد وآل محمد ولا يحزنك قولهم إننا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال ما هي العظام وهي رميم قل يحيي الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون وليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم ان اللہ وملائکتہ یصلون علی النبی یا ایھا الذین آمنوا صلوا علیہ وسلموا تسلیما اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم ان جابر بن عبد اللہ الانصاری ان فاطمہ الزہرا علیہ السلام بنت رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ قال سمعت فاطمہ انہا قالت دخل علی برسول اللہ فی بعض الايام فقال السلام علیک یا فاطمہ فقلت علیک السلام قال انی اجد فی بدنی ضعفا فقلت له أعوذك بالله يا أبت من الزوف فقال يا فاطمة ائتني بالكساء اليمان فغطني به فأتيت بالكساء اليمان فغطيت به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمام القمر فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا ببرد الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت لك السلام يا قرة عيني وسمرات فؤادي فقال يا أمه إني شم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رأيتها جدي رسول الله فقلت من جدك تحت القصاء فأقبل الحسن نحو القصاء وقال السلام عليك يا جد يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل ما قطعت الكساء قال عليك السلام يا والدي يا صاحب حوزي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت عليك السلام يا والدي يا قرة عيني وثمرات فؤادي فقال لي يا أمه إني شم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رأيته جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت من نجدك قطعت القصاء فدان الحسين نحو القصاء وقال السلام يا جده السلام يا من اختراه الله تأذن لي أن أكون مع قطعت القصاء فقال عليك السلام يا والدي يا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت القصاء فاقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني شم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخيب ابن أمي رسول الله فقلت نعم ها هو وما ولدك قطعة القصاء فأقبل علي بن القصاء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله تعالى لي أن أكون معكم تحت القصاء قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي يا أبسي وخليفتي وصاحب اللواء قد أذنت لك فدخل علي تحت القصاء ثم أتيت نحو القصاء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبا يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت القصاء قال وعليك السلام يا بنت يا بذاتي قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت القصاء فلم تمرنا جميعا تحت القصاء أخذ برسول الله بطرف القصاء وما بيد الجمنة إلى السماء قال اللهم إني هؤلاء أربعتي وخاصتي همتي اللهم من دمي يعلموني ما يعلمهم ويعظنوني ما يعظنهم أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سلمهم ودم لمن أداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك لي ولا يعذب عنهم رجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد فقال عز وجل يا ملائكة يا سبحان سماوات إنما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا رمدية ولا قمر منيرا ولا شمس مجيد ولا فلك يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت القصاء فقال الأمين جبريل يا رب ومن تحت القصاء فقال عز وجل هم آل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبالها وبنوها وقال جبريل يا رب أتعزل لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك فهبط الأمين جبريل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله الذي لا يقرئك السلام وشخصك بالتحية والإكرام يقول لك وعزة بجلال إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرض مدهية ولا قمر منير ولا شمس مزية ولا فلك يدور ولا البحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد إذن لي أن أدخل معكم فلتعذروا لي يا رسول الله فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين نبي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك فدخل جبريل معنا تحت القصاء فقال نبينا الله قد أولكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب سهل البيت يطهركم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد فقال لي النبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت القصاء من الفضل عند الله فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني برسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محفل على الأرض وفي جمع من شيعة المحبين إلا نظرت عليهم رحمة وحفظ بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى يتفرقوا فقال علي زم الله فزنا فاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة فقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني برسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محفل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعة ومحبين وفيه مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مهموم إلا وكشف الله غمه إلى يوم ولا طالب حاجات إلا وقضى الله حاجاته فقال علي والله فزنا وسعدنا فكذلك شيئتنا وفازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرات ورب الكعبة اللهم صل على محمد وآل تقی آ جائیے پڑھ لو روایت وصل پڑھ لو بعد اللهم
برائے خوشنودی امام زمانہ بلندتر صلوات۔ اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم۔ اللہم انی اسألک توجہ الیک بنبیک نبی الرحمہ محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ، یا ابا القاسم یا رسول اللہ یا امام الرحمہ، یا سیدنا و مولانا، انا توجہنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بک الی اللہ وقدمناک بین یدی حاجاتنا، یا وجیہا عند اللہ اشفع لنا عند اللہ، یا وجیہا عند اللہ اشفع لنا عند اللہ، یا ابا الحسن یا امیر المؤمنین یا علی ابن ابی طالب یا حجت اللہ علی خلقہ، یا سیدنا و مولانا، انا توجہنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بک الی اللہ وقدمناک بین یدی حاجاتنا، یا وجیہا عند اللہ اشفع لنا عند اللہ، یا وجیہا عند اللہ اشفع لنا عند اللہ، یا فاطمۃ الزہراء یا بنت محمد یا قرۃ عین رسول، یا سیدتنا و مولاتنا، انا توجہنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بک الی اللہ وقدمناک بین یدی حاجاتنا، یا وجیہۃ عند اللہ اشفعی لنا عند اللہ، یا وجیہۃ عند اللہ اشفعی لنا عند اللہ، یا ابا محمد یا حسن ابن علی ایہا المجتبی یا ابن رسول اللہ یا حجت اللہ علی خلقہ، یا سیدنا و مولانا، انا توجہنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بک الی اللہ وقدمناک بین یدی حاجاتنا، یا وجیہا عند اللہ اشفع لنا عند اللہ، یا وجیہا عند اللہ اشفع لنا عند اللہ، یا ابا عبداللہ یا حسین ابن علی ایہا الشہید المظلوم، یا ابن رسول اللہ یا حجت اللہ علی خلقہ، یا سیدنا و مولانا، انا توجہنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بک الی اللہ وقدمناک بین یدی حاجاتنا، یا وجیہا عند اللہ اشفع لنا عند اللہ، یا وجیہا عند اللہ اشفع لنا عند اللہ، یا ابا محمد یا علی ابن حسین یا زین العابدین ایہا السجاد یا ابن رسول اللہ یا حجت اللہ علی خلقہ، یا سیدنا و مولانا، انا توجہنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بک الی اللہ وقدمناک بین یدی حاجاتنا، یا وجیہا عند اللہ اشفع لنا عند اللہ، یا وجیہا عند اللہ اشفع لنا عند اللہ، یا ابا جعفر یا محمد ابن علی ایہا الباقر یا ابن رسول اللہ یا حجت اللہ علی خلقہ، یا سیدنا و مولانا، انا توجہنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بک الی اللہ وقدمناک بین یدی حاجاتنا، یا وجیہا عند اللہ اشفع لنا عند اللہ، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا إبراهيم يا موسى بن جعفر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا لابن موسى الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا لابن محمد أيها الحادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن ابن علي أيها العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وسيع الحسن الخلق الصالح الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا ساداتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وأدتي ليوم الفقر وفاقتي وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله واشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا ساداتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميه من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين. محمد وآل محمد الصلوات.
درود پڑھی محمد والے محمد کی ذات. مومن کرام، اشرا مولانا رام کی آج چھٹی مجلس کا آغاز ہو چکا ہے، اور جو بچے باہر بیٹھے ہیں یا لیڈیز ہال میں ان سے گزارش ہے کہ ہال میں تشریف لائیں. قبلہ ذریعہ زادی صاحب تشریف لا چکے ہیں انگلش مجالس کے لیے. آپ سب بچوں سے گزارش ہے کہ اندر ہال میں تشریف لے آئیں. ایک دفعہ الحمد شریف پڑھ کے 3 دفعہ کل شریف پڑھ کے اپنے مرحومین کو اصال ثواب پہنچائیں. خصوصی طور پہ آج کی نیاز کا اہتمام جن احباب کی طرف سے کیا گیا ان کے مرحومین کے لیے سورۃ الفاتحہ. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اللہم صلی علی محمد و علی محمد. ابتدا ہے رب کریم کے پاک اور بابرکت نام سے کہ جس نے اس کائنات کو خلق کیا، اور ابتدا ہے محمد و آل محمد کے نام سے کہ جن کے لیے یہ کائنات خلق کی گئی. اور تمام حمد ہے اس خالق ازل کے لیے سکون دیتا ہے جھیل کو جو کمل کے لیے. اور میں ان کے نام سے کرتا ہوں ابتدائے کلام کہ وہ جن کے نام فرشتوں نے بھی سنبھل کے لیے. اور علی ولی سے مدد مانگ کر تو دیکھ کبھی، یہ کیمیا ہے سبھی مشکلوں کے حل کے لیے. اور میں کیوں نہ اس کو بلا فصل بادشاہ کہوں، جدا ہوا جو نبی سے نہ ایک پل کے لیے. اور کفن پہ خاک شفا سے لکھا ہو نعت علی، بس یہی بہت ہے میرے نام عمل کے لیے. اور غم حسین امانت ہے آج کی محسن، یہ رزق میں نے بچایا ہوا ہے کل کے لیے. درود پڑھیے محمد و آل محمد ذات. عباس
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. انا اعطینا کا کوثر فصلی بربک وانحر انا شانئک هو الابتر. انا اعطینا کا کوثر فصلی بربک وانحر انا شانئک هو الابتر.
گزارش کریں گے ذاکر الفیض ابو تراب سے وہ رونق ممبر ہوں اور نذرانہ کی پیش کرے بارگاہ محمد والے محمد میں. جتنی دیر میں ترابائی پڑھتے ہیں سب بچوں سے بات جو کھڑے ہیں ان سے گزارش ہے کہ اندر حال میں تشریف لیں. ان کے بعد قبلہ دریاب زادی صاحب رونق ممبر ہوں گے. درود پڑھیے محمد والے محمد کی ذات پہ.
اجازت ہے نوکری. ماشاء اللہ ولا حول ولا قوت الا باللہ العلی العظیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. الحمد للہ الذی جعلنا من المتمسکین بولایت امیر المؤمنین علی ابن ابی طالب. صلوات پڑھ لیں. الذی
تختین من الخیام یا زینب یا ام کلثوم رقیۃ علیکن منی سلام. سمجھن والے دا جگر پھٹ وے کہ عاشور دے دین تو پہلے جداں مولا خیام وچ واپس آئے ہر ایک بہن دا نا چاہ کے آدے میرا آخری سلام قبول کر علیکن منی سلام. بہنوں میرا آخری سلام قبول کرو. جو خیمے چو ایک صدا آئی حسین کے گلے جو اج بھیڑاں نو سلام خیام تو باہر ولا چھڑے. حسین فرمایا بہن زینب ہن حسین غریب ہو گئے حسین لاچار ہو گئے ایڈا مظلوم ہو گئے کہ حسین دے زخماں دے وچ زخم آئیں تیراں دے وچ تیر آئیں نیزیاں دے وچ نیزے آئیں جڑی جا خالی آئی کربلا دی گرم ریت بھی آئی. جو فرمایا بہن زینب میری او حالت نہیں کہ میں حسین خیام دے اندر آ کے سلام ولاوا. بی بی آدی حسین بھرا غریب نہ صدا اندر لگا میں کو ایک آخری بھرا دی زیارت نہ کرن دے. ہاں جو عزیزوں جدہ آخری زیارت دا کیا ہے جدہ مولا حسین بادشاہ خیام دا لڑ ودھائے جدہ خیام دے اندر ہوئیں جو جدہ جناب زینب دی دید پئی ہے نا بی بی غش کھا کے کربلا دی زمین تے بہ گئی تے فرمایا واہ غربتا علیک السلام یا جد رسول اللہ. وہ نانا میں زینب دا سلام قبول کرو. نانا ہائے مصیبت کہ 28 رجب آئی حسین مدینہ چھوڑیا حسین ضعیفی دی حالت چھنائی آج اشتر تو پہلے حسین کو میں ڈٹھا اور میں دعا مانگ دیا یا اللہ سکینہ اپنے باپے کوئی حالت چھنا ویکھے. ہاں عزیزان جدہ مولا اندر آئین فرمایا بہن زینب کوئی ایک لباس پرانا ہوئے. جو جناب زینب نو وصیت یاد آئی فرمایا جناب زہرائے مرضیہ نے زینب لباس تے دیندی پئیاں تن ایک ویلا ہو سی حسین پرانا لباس منگسیا او ویلے حسین کو یہ لباس دے وے. جناب حسین پرانا لباس پا کے بہن زینب دے سامنے آئے جو فرمایا ایک اور عرض ہے کوئی پرانی چادر ہووی زینب. فرمایا ہاں بھرا ہے. جناب حسین نے چادر لئی پٹیاں بڑھاونیاں شروع کیتیاں ہیں. عزیزان سوال جو کرے نا حسین نو پٹیاں بڑھاون دی کیڑی لوڑ آ گئی آئی. آؤ میں تو کو دساوا جدہ مرد جنگ وچ بھجدا ہے نا اودی ابا جھڑ دیے اودی کبا جھڑ دیے پر جدہ مستورات بھجے سر دی چادر جھڑ ویندی ہے. غریب پٹیاں بڑھاونیاں شروع کیتی ہیں ایک ایک بھیڑ کو بلا کے آہدے آج آخری حسین دا سلام ہووے جو سر جھکاؤ جو میں پٹیاں بندھڑیاں شروع کرا. مولا حسین بادشاہ نے ہر ایک مستورات دے سر تے پٹی بنی. الا لعنت اللہ علی القوم الظالمین وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون وآخر دعوانا الحمد.
درود پڑھیے محمد وآل محمد کی ذات. گزارش کریں گے ہمارے عشرے کے مہمان قبلہ سید ذریعہ افزادی صاحب سے کہ وہ رونق ممبر ہوں और फ़ज़ाइल मुसाहब मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद बयान करें इंग्लिश में। दुरूद पढ़िए मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद के साथ।
वालिद के सलावत। औज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला अशरफिल अंबिया वल मुरसलीन सय्यदना व हबीबना अबिल कासिम मुस्तफ़ा मुहम्मद व आले बैतिहि तय्यबीन ताहिरीन अल मासूमीन। अम्मा बाद फ़क़द क़ाला रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि व आलिहि वसल्लम हुसैन मिन्नी व अना मिन हुसैन। We begin first and foremost by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this infinite mercy, His blessing, in allowing us to hold this Majalis Azhar for Sayyid al-Shuhada, his women, his children, his family. We extend our condolences to the mu'mineen, mu'minat here today. Bil khusus, the Imam of our time, Imam Zamana, on these ayams of tragedy and sadness, and these ayam which are filled with a whole lot of grief for the Ahlul Bayt. Over the past few nights I've had the honor of sharing with you this hadith of the Holy Prophet where it says, Hussein is from me and I am also from Hussein. We looked at in the first 5 nights how we should better understand Imam Hussein by focusing on ourselves first, because we established that to understand this hadith we need to see it from a spiritual point of view. So not our physical eyes or the eyes of our brain, but the eyes of our heart. And we went through the different stages of the nafs, nafs al-ammara, nafs al-lawama, and then we focused on nafs al-mutma'inna. And we also looked at, in the beginning few majalises, the likes of the people of Kufa, why they couldn't recognize Imam Hussein, what mistakes they made. And in particular yesterday, we looked at some of the conditions surrounding those people who left Imam Hussein, as well as the fact that how many stages our nafs can have. So we know there's the 3 stages itself, but what does it really mean when you have a guilty conscience? Putting that all to aside now, inshallah, for the next 5 majalises to come, including today, we're going to focus on the concept of imama and nabuwa, and how both of them come together and help us understand this hadith, Husayn minni wa ana min Husayn. So to begin with, we find first and foremost, prophets can be split into 2 broad categories, so to speak. The first is a prophet who's known as a Nabi, and he applies and comes with rules and applies the rules of the previous prophet. But a Rasul is someone who comes with a new book and new laws and a new way of life, so to speak. Ulul Azm prophets are those who are the highest ranking. So we have 2 broad types, a Nabi and a Rasul. And then above that we have those prophets who are Rasuls. They are also what? They are Ulul Azm. The 5 main Ulul Azm prophets are Nabi Ibrahim, Nabi Nuh, Nabi Musa, Nabi Isa, and our Prophet, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The main importance of prophets is to guide mankind, to show you that God wants you to do this, and this is how you practically implement it. It's not just a set of theories and you go away. No. If you want a successful life, this is how you lead it. Which is why we have the Prophet's sayings as Sunnah, which we also follow, as well as the dictations of the Holy Quran. The Imams, however, the concept of Imamah comes after Prophet Muhammad. Some people say to us, you think Imam Ali is a prophet. No, far from it. The concept of Imamah means they take you by the hand and become your Imam, as in your leader. They guide you towards the seerah of the prophets. There's a distinction. The Imams don't come with new laws or a new book or any new forms of, for example, you could say wahi, this is the new verse of the Quran coming. No. They simply take you by the hand and show you this is what the Prophet meant when he said this. This is the correct tafsir of the Quran. Unfortunately, after the Prophet, the tafsir of the Imams was pushed away. So they only kept it for their close followers, their close loved ones, their muhibs.
However, we find therefore that the Imams are not prophets. Now, coming back to our point, we find that the Holy Prophet, our Prophet Muhammad, has said, Awwalana Muhammad, wa akhirana Muhammad, wa awsatana Muhammad, kulluna Muhammad. That even though the Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet, he's indicated here that those who come after me, including Sayyidah Fatima, salamullahi alayha, we are all Muhammad. Meaning what? Are we all prophets? No. We are all in terms of our isma. We are all ma'soom. Which is why they say, if for example you have a hadith and you know this hadith is correct, it's sahih, it's proven, but you've forgotten which of the 14 ma'soomin it comes from, they say attribute it to anyone. Why? Because everyone's fail and everyone's goal is the same. All 14 ma'soomin, their sayings and their actions are the same. If for example Imam Sadiq was in the time of Imam Hussein, he would have done the same thing as Imam Hussein. If Imam Hassan was in the time of Imam Hussein and Yazid came to power, he would have done the same. People tend to forget that Imam Hussein stayed with Imam Hassan for up to 10 years and he was adamant that Imam Hassan is my Imam. So if he is not rising up, I will not rise up. Coming back to this quote, there's another beautiful thing. It's what? Awwalana Muhammad. So the first of the 14 ma'soomin is what? Muhammadin al-Mustafa. Wa akhirana Muhammad. As in who? Imam Zamana. What's his full name? Muhammad al-Mahdi. Wa awsatana Muhammad. Out of the 14 ma'soomin, who's the 7th ma'soom? Imam Muhammad Baqir. His name is what? Muhammad. All of us are Muhammad. There's these subtleties that the Prophet has said for a reason. We find therefore that the concept of prophethood and imama is extremely important. The Prophet openly came out at the age of 40 and said to the people, as you know the famous story, when he announced his prophethood, we, the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, the Shia of the Ahlul Bayt, in our madhab, we believe that the Prophet was a prophet before he was even born. He was created in the concept of the Noor. This will come in the nights to come. I don't want to focus on it today, but just keep it on the back of your mind. The Prophet was a Noor, which was created originally. He wasn't like a Bashar like us. He came down in the form of a human being to show you how to live out God's command. But he came out openly at the age of 40. He was commanded by God to come out openly. So he did Dawat al-Zulashira, he came out to the mountain, as you know, and he said to the people, if I tell you there's an army behind this mountain, would you believe me? They said, of course we would, because you are as-Sadiq and al-Amin. You've never lied. So the Prophet said, then if you have so much trust in me, then know that I am the Prophet of God. Say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. But the Prophet came out openly at when? 40. When did he die? Age of 63. How many years in between? 63 take away 40? 23 years. In 23 years, the Prophet was not in the masjid the whole time. He was going to the wars of Badr, Uhud, Khaybar, Hunayn, Khandaq, all these different battles. So he didn't have time to answer people's questions as much. Of course, whenever they would come, he would answer it. But what about those new empires which were emerging and finding out about Islam? The likes of the Muslims from Abyssinia, some you could argue in Europe, in China, wherever this news spread, there's this religion of Islam. It says there's one God, follow his messenger, and they have questions. Today you can pick up your phone, WhatsApp, email, Facebook, whatever, ask a scholar. Back then, there was none of this. You have a question, sit on your horse, travel for 2-3 weeks. You have a question, sit on your camel, go for another 2-3 weeks. Or send a messenger. Sadly, there was no royal mail. There's no first class delivery or signed delivery. You have to send a messenger. Even him, the most fastest, would still take a week or so. So the Prophet did not have much time to be answering these queries. And he knew this. What did he say? Man kuntu mawla, fahaza, aliyan mawla. Wherever I am his master, if you accept me as your mawla, then you accept Ali as your mawla. If you only see me as your friend, then you see Ali as your friend. It depends on how you see Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family. So we find therefore that the concept of imama is crucial. We need someone at the same level of isma, of knowledge, of ma'rifah, of Prophet Muhammad to come after him in order to answer these questions. And that was only Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Which is why we find therefore the concept of prophethood and imama is so inextricably linked. I would like to say a thing in the sidelines. You know they say about Imam Ali, that his father, Hazrat Abu Talib al-Islam, Muhsin al-Islam. Na'uzubillah, they say that he was a kafir. And the main dalil they give for this is, there's a narration in which a companion said, I heard the Prophet whisper. I heard him whisper to whom? To his uncle Abu Talib when he was on his deathbed, that, oh uncle, say the kalma. 2 points here. If that's the case, that you have to say the kalma to be a Muslim, then none of us here are Muslims. Why? Have you said the kalma? No, you were born Muslim. When you're born a Muslim, what's the need to say the kalma? Secondly, I'm surprised at the Muslims. The Prophet whispered something and he heard it and he understood it and he knew what it meant. The Prophet in Ghadir Khum is screaming and shouting, Man kunta mawla fa hazal mawla. Till today people don't understand this hadith. Mawla could mean friend, could mean something else. You see, people pick and choose, cherry pick things where they like. Coming back to our main topic, prophethood and imama are hand in hand. We believe Prophet Muhammad is the best man to be created. But after the Prophet, there needs to be someone like Rasulullah, like him, to guide the Ummah with their questions, with their queries. Now you are starting to understand why the Prophet said, Husaynu minni wa ana min Husayn. Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein, because he is also the descendant of Rasulullah and Imam Ali. The same lineage carries on. The same concept of the Imam carries on. Using this logic, it should have been after Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, and it should have been Imam Hussein. The Ummah had its own deviations, its own queries, which we'll leave for today. So we've established first and foremost what? The concept of prophethood and imamah are hand in hand. In order to cement and further the Prophet's message, you need the concept of imamah. It's logical, it makes sense. For the younger kids here, if you have maths in school, or English in school, or science in school, and your teacher's not in, who comes in? Supply teacher. Who's the supply teacher? At the same level as your teacher. If you are in year 5 or year 6 and I send to you a teacher of nursery, would that be doing justice to you? No. If you are in university, you're doing your physics degree, it's your final year, your teacher, God forbid, falls ill. I send to you a teacher from year 7 to come teach you. Would that do you justice? No. Why? His ilm is not at the same level as yours. To guide the Muslim Ummah, you need someone with the same ilm as the Prophet. That was no other than Imam Ali alayhi salam. Moving forward with our discussion, we find that there's a strong link, therefore, between imamah and prophethood. Each prophet came and he guided the people based on their circumstances. Inshallah, in the nights to come, like I mentioned, we'll go into this in more depth. Prophet Musa's time, what was very common in his time? Sorcery, magic. So God gave him miracles which allowed the people of his time to know that Prophet Musa is special. As you know, in the Holy Quran, it was commanded to Prophet Musa, put your hand underneath your top of your shoulder, release it will be a white light. And throw down your staff, it will become a snake. This was not magic, this was a miracle to counteract the magic of the time. Nabi Isa's time, medicine was reaching its peak. New medicines were being made, new discoveries were being made. So God gave Nabi Isa the miracles of what? Science. He could cure the blind. He could put his palms on someone's eyes and cure them. As you know in the Holy Quran, he had a bird made of clay, he blew into it, and it became a real bird. He could cure people from leprosy. He could bring back people from the dead. Why? For what reason? To show people that the Prophet of God is from your community, in your context, but he has something special from me. So therefore, in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, what was his miracle? You see, in the Prophet Muhammad's time, people didn't really care about magic or medicine. They did to an extent. The aql came into play. The Arabs of the time had immense knowledge, immense, you could say, memories. They could memorize lines and pages and books of poetry, shajar nasabs. So my great-grandfather's name and his grandfather's name and his grandfather, they knew all of this. Like Hazrat Aqil, he knew the lineages of the Arabs of the time. So God sent Rasulullah with what? The Holy Quran. And the Quran challenges people, our people, come with one verse like the Quran if you are truthful. And you cannot. Because the eloquence of the Quran and its meaning and its various interpretations are too heavy to be understood fully. That was the miracle of the Prophet. And this carries on throughout into our time as well. Now coming back to our verse now, showing you the close link between Imama and Nabuwa or prophethood. Who's the Imam of our time? Imam whom? Imam Zamana. Which prophet will be there to help him? Of course there will be Nabi Khidr. But who else? Nabi Isa, as you know as Jesus. Who's Nabi Isa? Ruhullah. According to the Islamic belief, Nabi Isa alayhi salam was not crucified. He wasn't put on top of the cross and crucified. We believe he was taken towards the heavens. We have a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Nabi Isa alayhi salam was not crucified. He was taken towards the heavens. But he'll come back, and we know this. Prove it from the Quran. In Surah Al Imran, verse 46, we have a verse which begins, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَيَكَلِّمُ النَّاسَ فِي الْمَحْدِ وَكَحْلًا. Regarding Nabi Isa, it says, he will speak in the cradle and in his adulthood. Kahlan. That's the key. We've read this verse probably 100 times. We haven't gone into its mafhum. You see, according to Arab culture, from the age of 1, as soon as the baby is born, up to the age of 33, you are known as being a shabab. You might have heard this a lot, Ya Shabab. Imam Hassan and Hussein are what? Say the Shababi Ahl al-Jannah. Age of, since the baby is born, you could say, to the age of 33, Shabab. Age of 34 to the age of 51, you are known as being in the period of Kuhula. Okay, from the age of 34, age of 51, you are known as being in the period of being a Kuhula. Okay, age of 51 plus, 151, 251, if you can reach that age, you're known as a sheikh. Now to respect a sheikh, what does this verse say? Nabi Isa will speak in his cradle and what? Wakahlan. Biblical narrations, Islamic narrations all point to the fact that Nabi Isa was 33 years old when he ascended. So when will he speak again? Wakahlan. When he's 34, so to speak. That's only when he has his nuzul again. Again, look at the difference in the terms. For Imam Zamana, we don't say nuzul, we say zuhur. Why? Zuhur means he's here, but we cannot see. He's present among you. He could be sitting here in this majalis. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept and allow him to visit this majalis of us as well, and all of the mu'mineen. Nuzul, on the other hand, means something that's not present, but comes down and descends. Like the nuzul of Nabi Isa, he's in the heavens right now. What do we read in our salah? Inna anzalnahu. The Quran was descended, it came from the outer worlds to this world. It didn't just appear. Very clear, distinct terminology between the two different terms. Nabi Isa will have his nuzul, Imam Zamana will have his zuhur. But we go further than this. There were some prophets who reached such a high level that they became imams. You know where I'm going. Which prophet is this? One is Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Khalilullah. Surah Baqarah verse 124, when he's told, it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Qala inni ja'iluka linnasi imama. And I paraphrase this in my own words. We decided for Ibrahim to be what? An imam for the people. What did Nabi Ibrahim reply with? He said, Qala wa min dhurriyati. What about my lineage? Nabi Ibrahim, a person like me would say, why don't you ask for the prophethood to go in your lineage? Why are you asking for the imamah to carry on? Because Nabi Ibrahim knew through his superior knowledge that Nabuwa or Risala will stop with Rasulullah. But imamah will go on till the end of time with Imam Zamana. So he asked specifically, this is why the concept of imamah is so important. And it helps us understand why the Prophet said, Hussein minni wa ana min Hussein. The concept of imamah doesn't stop with Prophet Muhammad. It carries on until Judgment Day. With the Imam of your time, Imam Sahib al-Amr, Imam Zamana. Therefore we find that we are living in a very special age. We go through many problems, we go through many issues. But the time of Imam Hussein and the time of Imam Zamana is similar to a certain extent. In fact, we find, what do we say to Imam Zamana? Oh, the one who will come back and avenge the blood of Imam Hussein. Someone can ask you this, why do you keep saying this? Why do you say that Imam Zamana will come back and take revenge for what happened to Imam Hussein? Mukhtar already killed the likes of Shimr and Ibn Sinan and the likes of Umar ibn Sa'd. Why do you keep saying Imam Zamana will come back and take the revenge? There's no Shimr here today. That Khuli of that Ibn Sinan is not here today. Walid and Marwan not here today. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad is not physically here today. So why do you keep saying Imam Zamana will take the revenge? The point is this. The respected Ayatollah Allama Jawadi Amuli, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase his life. He says Imam Hussein alayhi salam has two characteristics, two rights. There's a hakiki form, there's a hukuki form. What that literally means is Imam Hussein alayhi salam had a physical right, being the Imam, being the last of the five of the Ahlul Kisa, and people demolished that. They killed him. When they killed him, they didn't kill him physically, they trampled upon his hukuks as well, his legal rights. His legal rights are alive even today as the third Imam. Imam Hussein stood up for what? For humanity, right? So wherever you see in the world poverty being stricken, people killing innocents, that's someone like Yazid. And those who stand up to them are like Imam Hussein. This is why Imam Hussein said, a man like me will never give bay'ah to a man like Yazid. It's a war of concepts, war of ideologies, not just Imam Hussein versus Yazid, no. This is why Imam Hussein won the war. He didn't go for the Battle of Karbala. He went there to win the war for Islam. So we find therefore that Imam Zamana is therefore the revenge taker for Imam Hussein for that reason. Why did I mention this for today? Because when we mention this hadith, like I mentioned earlier, Hussein minni wa ana min Hussein, Rasulullah knew that Islam will go through a patch, a period, where it will be taken back down to the period of Jahiliyyah, even worse to a certain extent. Because the laws of Islam were being uprooted, they were being demolished, they were being taken for a joke. So you needed someone like Rasulullah in the form of Imam Hussein to come and help Islam. Imam Hussein did not come alone. You see, in the time of Saddam, the dictator of Iraq, when he was killing Ayatollah Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, they said to him, why have you captured his sister? As you know, two people were captured, Ayatollah Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, Shaheed, and his sister Bintul Huda, Amina al-Sadr. They said to Saddam, why are you torturing his sister as well? In fact, they say, they tied Ayatollah Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr in chains and tortured his sister in front of him. And they killed his sister in front of him, and then they tortured and killed Ayatollah Shaheed Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr. Inshallah, you get to visit the holy land of Najaf. He has his shrine, his markad built near there. Saddam again replied, I am not going to make the same mistake Yazid made. What was he talking about? You see, we tend to think that our sisters or our women have no role to play when it comes to Imam Hussein or Imam Zamana. We forget that out of the 313 commanders of Imam Zamana, 50 will be what? Up to 50 will be what? Women. Women have a very important role to play, which is why we push them to go to education. We have a lot of focus upon our sisters and our mothers. Saddam replied, I will not make the same mistake Yazid made. He killed Hussein, he left his sister Zainab alone. He left his sister Kulthum alone. He left his women alone. He captured them, but he didn't kill them. I won't do the same. What was he trying to say? Because Zainab kept the mission of Hussein alive. It was the sacrifices of Lady Zainab which allowed us to hold our majalises today. What you are holding today, and you have here, we owe great respect, great salutations upon Lady Zainab and the women of Karbala. And so as we finish for today, we mentioned just some, again I mentioned just some of the masa'ib of what this lady went through. You see, when there's a jashan, we had the jashan of the Anwar of Sha'ban here, I'm sure you had the jashan of Imam Ali alayhi salam here in our mission. It's happiness, right? You have cakes, there's jashrans, mankabats being recited, everyone's hugging each other. It's like a form of Eid. Why? My master has been born. It's the birthday of Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and so on. But with Lady Zainab, whenever it's her jashn or her majalis, it's the same outcome. Her fazail are part of her masaib. Why? Because she is called Ummul Masaib. The masaibs Lady Zainab went through, no one else went through. And when she was asked by Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, what did you think of what God did to your brother? I didn't kill Hussein, God killed Hussein. You see how they're trying to switch the narrative. The Lady Zainab replied, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. I saw nothing except for beauty. Many interpretations of this. Inshallah, in the days to come, we'll look at it more. One is this: I saw the men of Hussein and my brother Hussein running for the sake of Tawheed, sacrificing everything they had for the sake of Islam. I saw nothing except for beauty. Any other woman in that circumstance, when you've killed her brother, her sons, her cousins, her relatives, you've tried to dishonor her by taking her through the bazaars of Kufa and Sham, she probably would have died now. Lady Zainab came out like a lion. This is the daughter of Imam Ali. To understand fully what Lady Zainab went through and her masaib, you know, we mention this very easily, me included. Our ma'rifah is not there. Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to reach that level. When we say Lady Zainab went to the bazaars of Kufa and Sham, we just passed through this. Someone asked Imam Sajjad what this meant. It is narrated when Imam Sajjad came back to Medina with the women and children, Hazrat Muhammad Hanafiya came to meet him. Muhammad Hanafiya is whom? Imam Hussein's brother. Because he was ill, he got left behind. Physically, he was very well built. He was a warrior, but he was really ill. So Imam Hussein left him behind. He heard a qafla has come from Karbala. He rushed out on his horse. He met Imam Sajjad on the outskirts of Medina. He said, where is Hussein? I can see the alam, but where is my Hussein? Imam Sajjad replied, my uncle, my father Hussein was killed thirsty in Karbala. Muhammad Hanafiya took a deep breath. He asked the next question. If Hussein was killed, where was Abbas? Imam Sajjad replied, my uncle, they killed my Abbas as well. The next question, and this breaks the heart. He said, if Hussein was killed, if Abbas was killed, then I ask you only one question. What's happened to my sisters? What happened to my Zainab, my Kulthum? Imam Sajjad began crying. My uncle, my aunties like Zainab had to go to the darbar of Yazid in Kufa and in Sham. They had to go through the bazaars. When Imam Sajjad said this, Muhammad Hanafiya fell off his horse, unconscious. He cried so much he fell unconscious. Imam Sajjad went to his uncle, put his head in his lap and said, my uncle, wake up. Let's go home. We'll cry together. I will tell you what else happened in Kufa and Sham. Hazrat Muhammad Hanafiya woke up. He said, why do you keep calling me uncle? I don't recognize who you are. Why do you keep calling me uncle? Imam Sajjad said, my uncle, you don't recognize me. It's me, Ali ibn al-Hussein. I'm your nephew. He said, oh Sajjad, you are 24 years old. You're a young man. Why is your beard gone white? Why is your back like this? Imam Sajjad replied, my uncle, you heard Zainab went to the darbar and the bazaars. You fell off your horse. I had to see it with my own eyes. Ask me what I had to go through. We find on the day of Ashura, Lady Zainab comes with two of her sons, On and Muhammad. According to traditions, they're only 9 or 10 years of age. She comes to Imam Hussein and says, oh my brother, allow my sons to be sacrificed for you as well. He said, oh Zainab, they're very young. You need their support. Bibi Zainab said, my brother Hussein, what will I say to Fatima on Judgment Day if she asks me that Ali Akbar had been killed and Qasim had been killed? Oh Zainab, what about your sons On and Muhammad? Did you not sacrifice them? Imam Hussein said, now you've mentioned Fatima, I can't say no. O Muhammad, go and fight for the sake of Islam. It is narrated, Hazrat Aun and Muhammad fought so bravely, they would attack the right flank, make the right flank go to the left. Then one brother would attack the left flank, make it go to the right. As they fought in the battle of Karbala, they would meet each other in the middle and push the army back. So much so, according to one tradition, they reached the Khaymagah of Umar ibn Saad and they began calling out to him, how dare you think our uncle Hussein is alone? Come out and face us if you have the courage. Umar Saad gave the call, these are no ordinary children, surround them and kill them, otherwise they will kill you. So they surrounded Aun and Muhammad. They began showering their arrows. They began hitting them with their spears. They both fell off their horse and gave their final salams. Hazrat Abbas went towards Hazrat Muhammad. Imam Hussein went towards Hazrat Aun. Hazrat Muhammad left this world. His soul had left. But Hazrat Aun had some breaths left in him. Imam Hussein picked him up. He said, oh my uncle, tell my mother Zainab, we went near the Furat, but we didn't drink the water. We promised her, as long as you are thirsty, we will not drink water. When they came back to the Khaymagahs, Bibi Zainab's also a mother. She has the heart of a mother, but she says, my Hussein is everything. When the Bibis were doing their matam, Imam Hussein said, where is Zainab? Zainab was in her Khaymagah, in the state of sajda, thanking Allah for accepting her sacrifice. But this Qafla went from Karbala to Kufa to Sham. When they were released from Sham, they were giving back their amanas. Some Bibis were giving back their chadars. The earrings of Bibi Sakina were also given back, but there's no Sakina to wear them anymore. Then they said the heads of the Shuhada are coming. So they came with the head of Ali Akbar. Bibi Layla came forward. She took the head of Ali Akbar. They said, this is the head of Qasim. Bibi Farwa came forward. She took the head of Qasim. This is the head of Abbas. Bibi Kulthum came forward. She took the head of Abbas. This is the head of Hussein. Bibi Zainab took the head of Hussein. There was one head which was so small that when the guard held it, he covered the whole head. Whose head was this? This was the head of Ali Asghar. Bibi Rubab came forward. She took the head of her thirsty son. But he came then with the heads of two boys, of Aun and Muhammad. All of the Bibis looked to Bibi Zainab. Bibi Zainab looked to the head of Imam Hussein. She didn't look to the heads of her sons. The guard shouted, has the mother of these two boys died in Karbala? Why is the mother not coming forward? Bibi Fiza said, don't say that. Their mother is crying for Hussein. Give me the head of these two young boys. So Bibi Zainab, and I finish with this, she went back to Medina. She went to the grave of Bibi Fatima. When you go to Karbala and you come back to your homes, some of you bring back rings, you bring back tasbees, you bring back scarves. What did Bibi Zainab bring back? She said, oh my mother Fatima, I have something for you from Karbala. This is the hadiyah from Karbala. She took out the shirt of Imam Hussein, which had his blood and the cuts of the sword and the spears. She placed it onto the grave of Bibi Fatima. She said, oh my mother, this is the shirt of your Hussein. She felt the grave beginning to shake. She could hear the Bibi crying. So Bibi Zainab picked up the shirt. She said, my mother, this is only Hussein's shirt and you could not bear to see it. Oh my mother, ask me what I had to see on the Asr of Ashur as I saw the likes of Shimr putting his hands into the hair of my brother Hussein. My mother asked me what I saw. But this Bibi, who never cried for Aun and Muhammad, went to her home in Medina. When she entered the home, she saw this is where Abbas would sit, that's where Ali Akbar would sit, this is where Qasim would speak to me. Until she went to the room of Aun and Muhammad, she saw two small beds together. Next to the two small beds, she saw two musallas. She began crying loudly, oh my Aun, oh my Muhammad, forgive your mother. But tell me, how do I live without you? Oh my Aun, oh my Muhammad, tell your mother, how do I live without you? Allah la'natullahi al-qawmi zalimeen, saya'lamu allazina zalamu ayyamun kalibiyan kalibun. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by al-Masa'ib, Lady Zainab, by her Aun and her Muhammad and her love for Imam Hussein, to accept our humble offering, to forgive us our sins, to protect our families, to allow us to do the ziyarah of Lady Zainab in Sham, and allow us to be with Imam Hussein in this world and the hereafter, for the love of the Ahlul Bayt. could we recite aloud salawat upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad?
صلوات بر محمد اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان اللعین الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. شروع کرتا ہوں اس بزرگ و برتر کے نام سے جس کی قبضہ قدرت میں کائنات کا ہر نظام تھا، ہے اور ہمیشہ رہے گا. تمام تعریفیں صرف اور صرف اللہ کے لیے، اور صلوات بر محمد آل محمد. جو درد دل سے ہو خالی وہ زندگی کیا ہے، جو درد دل سے ہو خالی وہ زندگی کیا ہے. غم حسین نہ رکھے تو آدمی کیا ہے. غم حسین نہ رکھے تو آدمی کیا ہے. جو درد دل سے ہو وہ جس کے در پہ مرادیں بھی سر جھکاتی ہیں، وہ جس کے در پر مرادیں بھی سر جھکاتی ہیں. میرے حسین سے زیادہ کوئی سخی کیا ہے. وہ میرے حسین سے زیادہ کوئی سخی کیا ہے. جو درد دل سے ہو غم حسین کا روشن چراغ رکھتا ہوں. غم حسین کا روشن چراغ رکھتا ہوں. میں جانتا ہوں میرے دل کی روشنی کیا ہے. میں جانتا ہوں میرے
ہیں جو درد دل سے ہو، قدم قدم پر جلانے پڑے لہو کے چراغ، قدم قدم پر جلانے پڑے لہو کے چراغ، کوئی حسین سے پوچھے